hypocrisy, and especially UC Berkeley. I teach in the Berkeley public schools, and I see how privatization is tearing down not just our schools, but the students in our schools. And the way that we're seeing it, and the worst way we're seeing it, is through charter schools. Because what we see then is a lack of accountability by the state and government, because then they're looking toward private donations and private accountability, which means in the end, private ownership and influence over public education. And in the end, the charter model is just like other people are expressing already. It's putting public education on a market model and a market system, and our students are not for sale. So I want to know if every independent study that's been done around charter schools, from UCLA to Stanford, has found that charter schools are more segregated, provide less quality of education, are more unstable, and are oftentimes schools that have are too influenced by church interests and religious interests, or corporate interests, or simply the advantage of wealthy parents over poor communities. Why is UC Berkeley supporting the development of a charter school in Berkeley Unified School District? That's incredible. Given the record of charter schools in Oakland, they abuse children. In the American Indian Charter School, the principal shaved a student's hair off in front of the school as a form of punishment to humiliate him. He also referred to a young woman inappropriately to her body parts in front of grad students from Mills College, which was exposed in the East Bay Express, and ultimately forced him to resign, but not for another year. And if that had been a public school, I promise you, he would have been out in a heartbeat. So why is this happening? Why are you going to bring that to Berkeley, rather than fighting for what we really need? Berkeley has authority to fight for what we need for public education. Help us fight to stop teaching to the test. Help us expose the racism of the SAT and the California state tests. Help us show that critical thinking and not rote memorization is what's really needed, and help us show that reducing class sizes and having honest discussions about what racism really is in public education needs to be done. Because otherwise, I hear lots of good words, but administrators and Chancellor Birgeneau, your deeds do not match your words.
I'm not even going to respond to that, Yvette.
You should look more closely at the charter school that we opened down in Berkeley, and I don't think you would say that it was overwhelmingly white by any means. To the contrary, it's probably beyond the ability of any single university to solve the K-12 problem in this state or any other state. We, by opening a charter school which is heavily staffed by students and faculty from the Graduate School of Education. I thought I heard you say that you're a graduate student in education here. And heavily supported by the faculty of the Graduate School of Education. We are trying to do what we can to do good with that charter school. If it is having an eroding effect on the quality of public education, I have a hard time believing that one charter school is going to do all of that.
It's not about one, it's about the whole movement. And whether one is majority white or majority black, charter schools are aiding the segregation of public education, and Berkeley should not go down in history being a part of that process.
We believe that this charter school is making it possible for hundreds of elementary and middle school students to aspire realistically to go to college.
And some of our outstanding faculty, including, for example, Frank Worrell, have committed a huge amount of their energies to having a successful charter school and to serving otherwise education-deprived young people. And I admire them for what they've accomplished.
I want to first of all thank the ASUC for putting this on. I want to thank you guys. I don't envy you. You didn't have to do this, but thank you. That being said, I think a lot of what's been talked about tonight is just systematic political failure. So moving forward, how is the UC, specifically UC Berkeley, going to address and turn it into a systematic political success? And what steps are being taken? I know Vice Chancellor Resslauer, you touched on some things that we can do, but as a systematic plan, what can you put in place?
As a systematic what?
Plan.
Plan?
Plan.
Plan.
Yes.
Well, I think what we should do is post on the website what I sent to the faculty and the staff last week, which was a delineation, and there's more actually came in today, of all the activities that we and you and Office of the President are doing in the area of political lobbying and political mobilization. Over 200,000 people associated with the University of California have, nearly 200,000, not over, have already signed up to be advocates for higher education and for funding of UC in Sacramento. That's through a website. So what we're going to do is make available to the entire student body the information that we distributed to the faculty and staff last week. And I think there you'll find a lot of the information you need to know how you can be effective. I don't know that we can stand up and start a march of 20,000 people, but that's probably not the way we would have impact anyway. It's those constant emails, phone calls, and hectoring of your legislators that's going to make them aware that you're watching. See, otherwise what they'll do is, if there's one big march, they'll say, yeah, that'll blow over. But if you're constantly hectoring them, the same way the Republicans are constantly hectoring their legislators of, one bad move on taxes, and you won't ever get elected in this state again. That's the kind of sense of being watched that you need. And it's labor intensive. It's not something that one big march will do, because they'll write that off. But it's probably the way, if you're asking for a plan.
Well, I agree with that, obviously, although I do think a multi-100,000 march on Sacramento in the spring would have an impact.
I want to make a quick shout out to those of you living in RVs or on the streets or your friends. I hope you'll support our Save Rochdale Village Cooperative campaign. You can find us on Facebook. Research for Rochdale. And my question to the panel now. On one of the organizing bodies for the September 24th protest was the General Assembly, and they came up with a list of 6 demands. And I think I and many other students want to know Chancellor Birgeneau demands or not, and why. And I'll go ahead and read them. Let me know if you need me to repeat them. 1, no student fee increases. 2, no layoffs, no furloughs. 3, no pay cuts to workers earning less than $40,000 a year. 4, full disclosure of the budget. 5, defend, do not privatize public education in California. And 6, elect regents by students, faculty, and staff.
So first of all, as a matter of principle, I don't respond to demands. You know that. You know each other. So I don't respond to demands. Now, as you said, what do I think about these various propositions? Without student fee increases, the quality of education will deteriorate significantly. So unfortunately, student fee increases are required. Let's see, that's number 1. Number 2 is layoffs. Again, obviously, I wish that we had the monies to actually pay the salaries of all of our employees, but we don't, because the state removed more than $100 million, and so the money literally doesn't exist to pay salaries. We've worked as hard as we can to minimize layoffs. I think I made that clear to you, and so I think we've done a good job. I was just listening to the Chancellor of Irvine at the Council of Chancellors meeting a couple of days ago in the UC Irvine campus, which has had layoffs which are far